Mr. Chairman, let me also thank the distinguished ranking member of the entire committee. Mr. Graber, in 2008, our economy collapsed, correct?
Yes, well, there was certainly a very severe financial crisis that began in around 2008.
Right. In fact, it was the worst economic crisis that this country has experienced since the Great Depression, correct?
I would agree with that.
And millions of Americans lost their home as a result of this financial collapse? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And this collapse was in large measure triggered by the reckless behavior of some financial institutions engaged in the mortgage-backed securities market, correct?
I would agree that that was a contributing factor.
Right. I think economists who are in any way objective about what happened have indicated that that was a large part of the economic trauma that this country experienced. In fact, is an extraordinary experience. We're discussing an ordinary remedy to deal with what was an extraordinary experience, and so I'm not quite clear what the controversy is. But in response to this economic collapse, the Department of Justice initiated these lawsuits against financial institutions who were in part responsible for this economic trauma, correct?
I think that's correct. I mean, in light of what occurred, you know, and what occurred in the RMBS market and in the broader economy in general, that was certainly a significant contributing factor to the Department's decision to allocate resources to pursue these investigations, yes.
Now, we're discussing settlements against 3 major financial institutions where an extraordinary amount of money was secured as a result of the behavior that was conducted, true?
I would agree with that.
And can you give me that number again?
So there's, the Department has secured over $36.6 billion through the 3 settlements that are being discussed today.
And is it fair to say that the overwhelming majority of this money secured by the Department of Justice, independent of any congressional action, I'm not aware of members of Congress participating in the litigation, that the overwhelming majority of this funding went to direct consumer relief for everyday Americans who were harmed by the behavior of these financial institutions triggering the economic collapse, correct? The overwhelming majority went to everyday Americans. Is that true?
I would say that, yes, that the vast majority of the monies that have been recovered through these settlements have either gone to civil FIREA penalties and to consumer relief, and the vast majority of that consumer relief, I would say actually all of it, is going to provide some measure of relief to homeowners who have suffered as a result of the financial crisis.
Okay, let me enter into the record with the distinguished chairman's approval and unanimous consent, if that be issued, a statement by the Center for American Progress dated February 12, 2015.
Without objection.
Thank you. Now, is it in fact the case that with respect to the Bank of America and Citigroup settlements, only 0.3% of the settlement funds were to be directed toward housing counseling? Is that true?
That sounds about right.
Okay. And there's some dispute, I gather, as to whether this housing counseling is of benefit to the American people, but there's over 1 million homes that are still in foreclosure in America right now, correct?
Yeah, I don't have the precise numbers, but that sounds correct.
Okay. And is it true that of those who go through the National Foreclosure Mitigation Counseling Program, they are 3 times more likely to receive a loan modification? Does that sound right to you?
That does sound right to me. It is my understanding that the folks who utilize the services of organizations that are on the HUD-approved counseling list are far more likely to stay in their home and are less likely to default.
And 70%, in fact, of individuals who go through counseling will stay on track in terms of their payment. A far greater number than those who don't receive this type of counseling. So I just want to thank the Department of Justice for the tremendous work you've done in securing these robust settlements, holding these financial institutions responsible for the collapse of our economy and triggering the Great Recession accountable, and for diverting some of the money legally to these organizations providing a good service, and I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Jeffries. The chair now